Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting a like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from the wedding subreddit from Wedding Whoopsie, who says, "Did I really break wedding etiquette?" The story starts. Throwaway account to try and stay as anonymous as possible, though the incident is probably too specific. About a year ago, my 41 female sister, 33 female, sent out her save the dates. She was getting married less than a week before my son's 18th birthday. Since my family is all over the country, my son has never had a big birthday celebration. My sister was planning a post-wedding brunch the day after the ceremony/reception, and I asked if she'd be okay if we could do something for my son in the afternoon, since family will already be gathered for a wedding. She loved the idea, and I ran it by my son, and reminded him he can do something with his friends on his actual birthday. Both were happy with the idea. I chose a venue away from the hotel we'd all be staying at so my sister wouldn't feel we were encroaching on her wedding. All good so far, and no problems. 6 months ago the invitations came and I RSVP'd for me and my son. Ex-husband is not in the picture. Meal options were a beef dish or a fish dish. I RSVP'd for 2 beef dinners. Now onto the problem, where I'm being told I'm in the wrong. At the reception yesterday, my almost 18-year-old son was given a child's meal, chicken nuggets and steak fries. And I told the server there was a mistake and we RSVP'd for the beef dish. The server took the plate and brought out a beef dinner 2 minutes later. For clarification, this wasn't a child-free wedding and there were about 5 kids there, aged 4 to 9 or so. At the brunch today, my sister pretty much ignored me and was really cold when she did talk to me. As it was ending, I asked if she was still coming to my son's celebration, since she seemed like she was mad at me. She pulled out a piece of paper and said, "Maybe I'll come once you pay this." The paper was an invoice she made up for $77.50 for an extra dinner. I was confused and asked her what it was about, and apparently my nearly 18-year-old son was supposed to get a child's meal, and the caterer was charging my sister an additional $77.50, and that it was my fault they had to provide an additional meal. I told her that 1, I had RSVP'd and chosen the adult meal for him months ago, and 2, he's a 17-year-old. How would anyone think a meal of 4 chicken nuggets and a handful of fries would be enough for him? It became this big blow up and my sister turned it into people having to take sides. And surprise, my son's birthday party ended up being a disaster that almost no one attended because your sister is the bride and she makes the rules on her day. Even our mum skipped it because my sister was inconsolable. Everyone is telling me he should have just sucked it up and I could have taken him to McDonald's afterwards. I still think I'm being perfectly reasonable. Am I really this wrong about wedding etiquette? Absolutely, you're not wrong in this situation. I mean, like you said, you RSVP'd for 2 adult meals months in advance, so you'd automatically assume the caterer made a mistake here, and of course you're going to say, well actually no, it was beef that I ordered, and they replaced it straight away, which, you know, how's that any fault of your own? You assume it was an honest mistake unless the bride has purposely ordered chicken nuggets for this almost 18-year-old, and if so, why is she doing that? And then they went on to sabotage your son's birthday, which again was something that was previously agreed on. If it's something to do with that, she shouldn't have agreed with it in the first place. And your son simply deserved better from his aunt and his grandma in this. But Partially Stars says, no, you didn't break etiquette. Your sister is insane. You RSVP'd for beef. He should have gotten beef. No one over the age of 11 eats kids' meals. Well, not necessarily true. I quite like chicken nuggets and chips. OP says, thank you. I feel like once a child is a teenager, they graduate to the adult table/meal. Global Fact says, I'm sorry, I agree with you. Here is what's odd to me. Someone had to have given the caterer a count of how many adult meals and how many children's meals. Nobody in their right mind would tell a caterer a child's meal for a 17-year-old. My son was man-sized at almost 18, and I'm sure yours is as well. Now on your behalf, I would have done the exact same thing. I would have immediately assumed the kitchen had simply made a mistake. Something is rotten in Denmark here because someone had to have counted your son as a child, which is bizarre. I won't even go into the caterer charging that much for a plate. just ridiculous. Secondly, it was your sister's choice to get all worked up and mad at her own wedding. This is something that could have been easily addressed at a later time. I can't see where you did anything wrong. But the takeaway from this is somebody turned in one adult and one child onto the caterer. No offense, your sister sounds like a piece of work. OP says, in quotes, but the takeaway from this is somebody turned in one adult and one child onto the caterer, and says exactly. The RSVP didn't go directly to the caterer. So at some point my sister decided to give my son a kids meal. And if this was such an issue, why didn't she immediately address it with me? Dolphine Darko says, I would love to know what bride's actual attendance was. Did everyone actually show up and they were short a beef plate? I find that very hard to believe. Please forward these responses to your family. They're absolutely crazy to take her side. So, at some point later, OP did update the post and says, I posted a few days ago and I'm not sure if this sub allows for or welcomes updates, but here it is. It's not good. My post was about my sister ordering a children's meal for my 17-year-old son at a reception and throwing a fit the next day and invoicing me to pay for his extra adult meal that he wasn't supposed to get. Thank you all for confirming it was correct that my son should have been given the adult meal we RSVP'd with. I found out it was all planned. Of course it was. After my sister agreed for my son to have his milestone 18th birthday celebrated the day after the wedding, since all family would already be there for the wedding, she decided she didn't want to share her weekend anymore. Yes, she got Friday for the rehearsal and rehearsal dinner, Saturday for the ceremony and reception, and apparently needed all of Sunday too. Would the reasonable thing be to tell me she was no longer comfortable with my son's party? Yes, and I would have cancelled or postponed it. Would the reasonable thing be to manufacture some petty beef, that pun, and turn everyone against me and my son, resulting in almost no one showing up? Apparently, yes to my sister and mother, because that makeshift invoice, I had another look at it after I posted. Printed on an inkjet printer that slightly bleeds red even on black and white, just like my mother's old faulty printer, which means she printed it before the wedding. It was actually my son that noticed and mentioned it looked like it came from my mum's crappy printer. I mean, did my sister really spend her wedding night creating an invoice? Of course it was already prepared. This was all planned. I called my mum and confronted her yesterday and she just said, it was your sister's wedding. All the attention should have been on her anyway. Her wedding was on Sunday. She doesn't own Sunday. So they humiliated my son so she can play princess for an extra day. Honestly, things have been bad in the past, but for the past 5 years, I thought I was really making progress with my mum, but I'm questioning her role in my life now more than ever. Even worse, my son no longer wants anything to do with both of them, and maybe that's for the best. Circus Sloth says to OP, this is absolutely wild. I guess I can see wanting all the attention on the couple the day of, but the fact that she saw celebrating her nephew the day after her wedding with all the family around as a burden, taking attention away from her own pretty princess special weekend, instead of being overjoyed to share a happy fun milestone with him is so gross. OP says that's the thing that bothers me. At any point she could have said, I thought about it some more and I really want the attention of the weekend to be on me. I would have been annoyed but cancelled the birthday party. But to not say anything and cause this blow up is really out of this world. OK says, can I see being slightly annoyed at a nephew's birthday party the day after the weekend? Maybe. But I'm absolutely dying that she had him served a kid's portion like he isn't eating more than most adults at almost 18. OP says, I totally get it. When I first approached her about it, it was only because it's a milestone birthday. And my extended family is spread throughout the country, so it meant everyone who came to the wedding could also celebrate my son's birthday. I even booked an entirely different venue so she wouldn't feel encroached on. If she or even my son wasn't okay with it, I wouldn't have pressed the issue at all. I legitimately thought she was happy with extending the festivities. Weddings, man, they really bring out the absolute worst in some people, don't they? But holy moly, what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from Katita from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit. It says, am I the arsehole for not sharing the good tea with a friend? Ooh, tea. My friend was over visiting. I offered tea. She said yes. She's not much of a tea drinker. She normally drinks cheap herbal teas, which are not actually tea anyway, and isn't picky. I, on the other hand, have a cabinet full of teas of various types, imported from around the world. I offer a decent selection, a nice oolong, a nice white tea, a high quality herbal, a good flavoured black. She pointed at something else in the cabinet and went, "What about that one?" I hesitated, then said it's pretty expensive pu'er? P-U-E-R-H I had imported, and she probably wouldn't like it anyway. She said I'm being stingy and could let her taste for herself. But pu'er is polarizing tea anyway, and this stuff is not cheap at all, and it would be difficult for me to get more of this brand. I know I can make multiple cups from it, but I hadn't been planning on doing a pu'er week right now, and really didn't want to waste it on someone who probably wouldn't like it anyway. She doesn't even like strong black tea. For those not in the know, my family has compared the smell of pu'er to fish and dirty socks. I like it a lot, but I understand it's not everybody's thing. Now she's being passive aggressive at me. Am I the arsehole? Hell no, not the arsehole in this situation. Why is she being so insistent on it? Calling you stingy and let her taste it for herself. I mean, you threw a pretty big hint out there that's pretty expensive that you had imported. I'd be just like, hell no, absolutely, I totally understand where you're coming from then. You know, I'm like this with coffee. I like coffee, but I'm absolutely happy with, the cheaper jars that you get in the supermarkets. If someone's brewing up a fresh coffee, I'm like, don't waste that on me. I just wouldn't appreciate it. In the nicest possible way, I would appreciate them doing it for me, but not to go out of their way to do it in the first place, But I gotta admit, Opie had me super excited at the title, but when it was actually about tea, I was like, oh. When they said the good tea, I was like, oh, spill the tea, girl. But a commenter says to OP, not the arsehole, your mate was out of line. You offered her decent tea. She went poking about and asked for your good stuff like it was hers. That's pu'er, not builder's brew. It's niche, expensive, and acquired taste. If she's not even into proper tea and normally drinks glorified potpourri, what's she on about? If she normally drinks floral bathwater, she'd likely hate the pu'er anyway. Let her sulk, she's being daft. By the way, if I'm butchering these tea names, I do apologize. Another commenter says, I'm not understanding why it's so taboo to say. That's really expensive and I don't want to share it. These are hard times, and if I buy something pricey for myself, I want to. A, share it with only my wife, or B, share it with nobody. If somebody said that was expensive, I'm saving it, and it's stinky, so you won't enjoy it anyway. To me, instantly dropped. Totally makes sense. Not the arsehole. Opie adds their own comments and said, I said very apologetically that it's really difficult to get, admittedly mentioning that it's expensive was a mistake, and that's pu'er is a very polarizing tea and lots of people don't like it, and included the anecdote about my family and the fish comments. I clearly wasn't the most tactful, hence coming here, but I wasn't actually trying to be a massive jerk about it. I have nothing against her drinking cheap tea. The isn't really tea anyway isn't about herbal teas, which are not literally tea, and no tea drinker I know will refer to them as actual tea. I didn't say that to her anyway. Please note the humorous capitalization used there. My point is that it's very different flavor for someone who generally drinks herbals. Smelling would have been no issue. It doesn't have a strong smell and nothing prepares you for the pitch black that results. Taking this all the way to is she really a friend over a minor conflict about tea is a bit much in my opinion. For what it's worth, this isn't a huge strop. She was just annoyed. It's not like the highest stakes conflict I've ever been involved in. I just felt a bit bad afterwards. I think she was just kind of nosing at my interesting looking tea cabinet, which I get, but when I visit my fellow tea drinking friends, even if I see something shiny, I generally keep my eyes to myself unless it's offered. Tea can be very expensive. If it had been a different tea, I might have given her anyway, but I just couldn't bring myself with the pu'er. Jumping in randomly here, as I was reading this story, I had to go and check my emails and a couple of other things in between, and I had an advert for tea pop up immediately. They're bloody listening to me, let me tell you. And there was a nice looking peach infused tea. It almost had me buy it straight away. But anyway, I've gone off on one. Opie continues, the tea was in the cabinet. I opened it and took out several options to offer her, including a herbal. She looked in the cabinet while I was doing so and asked about the pu'er. I hadn't thought to pre-remove the tea from the cabinet so she wouldn't see that there's other tea, because most people will choose from provided options. It's kind of the opposite of appreciate this fine brew though. Yes, it's expensive, but I have yet to meet anybody around me who actually likes pu'er because it's so smelly. Even my Lapsang Souchong drinking husband doesn't like it. It's not a snobbery thing. It's really that many people just don't like it, even among tea snobs. I know it wasn't smart to mention the price, which redirected the whole issue. ETA, many people I know don't like it. I'm aware that it has plenty of aficionados. She was passive aggressive for a bit, then we kept hanging out and parted cordially. I just felt bad afterwards and decided to post, since I figured am I the arsehole could use a change from crazy fiancés, inheritance entitlement, and child-free weddings. Always. She wasn't actually aware of my large tea collection, and in the end she chose the herbal most similar to what she drinks at home. Though some of the other ones I offered her were unfamiliar to her teas, like oolong, and good quality, so I don't think she was in the most adventurous mood. Incidentally, she was kind of briefly shitty and moved on. This isn't a massive fight, I just felt bad afterwards. Mentioning the cost was definitely a stupid moment for me, though in fairness, I have another friend who's a big tea drinker, and if she said some tea was super rare and expensive, I'd be like, yeah, no, enjoy that, I can fund my own expensive hobby, lol. Still not my finest hour. Regarding herbals, I do have some, even some nice ones, and I did offer her. She's just one of those people who goes, what's the difference, lol. I also have definitely had friends who ask for tea, brew a cup and then drink 3 sips and the rest gets poured out. Sob. And the tea I offered her was good. Absolutely not trash tea. In my friend's defense though, while she was a bit shitty, she didn't throw a whole tantrum or anything and we parted cordially. I just felt bad afterwards, which is why I posted. If I was making pu'er, I would have absolutely offered her a taste. I also didn't think anything outside of the selection I'd taken out. I wasn't going to drink something I hadn't offered. This pu'er is way above my normal price range because while I may have a bit of a tea problem, my wallet is not fat enough to really indulge. I'd receive it as a gift from someone who had it gifted to them and was like, I don't like tea anyway, do you want it? It was like gold from heaven. I didn't tell her she drinks cheap herbals. I told you guys because she does. She buys the cheapest supermarket stuff. I even buy the more expensive herbals, the ones with the big fat sachets full of whole leaves and flowers and such. It was just to explain her general taste in tea/herbal. I'm fine with her enjoying what she enjoys. I don't think it's talking down to her. She will also say she buys inexpensive tea because it tastes fine to her. It's a description of her actual herbal tea shopping habits. There's some things where I'll buy the cheap option because I don't care or can't tell the difference myself. Like coffee. I tell my friends not to waste their good coffee on me since I don't particularly like it anyway and will just dump sugar in it. It's a factual description of the type of herbal tea she buys. She's a lovely person, which has no bearing on her choice of hot beverages. And like I said, I'm like OP in this with coffee. I tell people not to waste their good coffee on me or anything like that. I'm just happy with the cheap stuff. And it's the same with wine. If I'm, ever at dinner and people offer wine, I'm like, I just don't appreciate it. I don't enjoy it enough. One of my mates, he orders like boxes of wine and like places store it for him and all this kind of thing. And he gives it to me, oh, you should really taste this wine. You can taste such and such in it. And I'm like, I can't taste nothing in these wines, honestly. And I mean that in the nicest possible way. If you enjoy your wine, you enjoy your wine. I'm like that with beers, with ales. I like trying different ales out and things. I certainly wouldn't want anyone wasting any of the, something that they really enjoy, their good stuff, on me for certain types of things. But anyway, OP comes in with an update and says, so I was judged not the arsehole on the post, but there was definitely a lot of very lively discussion about tea snobs, and inappropriate nosing in cabinets. I very much appreciated all the comments. As it happened, about a week after the post, our friend group WhatsApp started talking about, you guessed it, tea. Specifically, somebody went, what do you mean different types of tea? Like, oh no, not another one, like verbena. And another friend, not even me, went off about how that's not real tea. Look, my friends and I agree on the important things in life. Also, I'm waiting for people to wonder why the fuck we keep on talking about tea on our WhatsApp group. It doesn't actually happen that often, I swear. Anyway, I jumped in and said, how about we have a tea party and I will let you all try the fancy stuff. So we did. About 10 friends came, including the original friend who was cruelly denied the good pu'er. We tried 8 different types of tea, including some variants of the same type, so they could compare the flavors. Example, 2 oolongs, 2 English breakfasts. Big hit was the chai, lol. Afterwards, some people asked where they could order some of the teas for themselves. And as for the friend from the first post, she tried the coveted pu'er and did not like it. On the other hand, her heart opened to the genmaicha. One of my other friends did enjoy the pu'er though. Everyone had a good time and agreed that we should totally do it again. I'm now sitting here and sipping my 3rd steep of the leaves with great satisfaction. Hope you added it was a really positive ending to the whole thing. It was also really fun hearing my friends comparing the tea flavors to each other and commenting on them. People also brought their finger foods and cookies and stuff to make it a proper party. Interestingly, most of the crowd liked the regular green better than the genmaicha, and my cheaper oolong better than the expensive. I think some of it is that since most of them are used to less expensive teas, if the flavor isn't punching them in the face, they don't feel it as much. Got a favorite oolong to recommend? And Opie has one more that says, well, we'll forever be on different sides of the divide regarding how obnoxious it is to call not tea, tea. You know what a bummer it is to get to someone's house, be offered tea after dinner, and it's a tisane? I mean, maybe you don't, lol. And then I have to drink it, otherwise I'll look like an arsehole. But now, I'm gonna turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this one? I might be Googling that peach infused tea after this one. Although I'm not sure if OP considers that real tea or not, but... But instead of our usual outro on this one, I'm just going to leave you with me trying to pronounce some of these teas because I was absolutely butchering them all the way through and I struggled so much. Hopefully you enjoy the outtakes. Goodbye. I hesitated, then said it's a pretty expensive... What the hell is that? Pu'er. I have to Google this. Pu'er. Ah, dearie me. Google saying pu'er, so I'm going with it. That pu'er's not builder's brew. God damn it. Even my lap sang Souchong. I feel like I'm becoming Sean Connery here. Lap sang Souchong. Even my lap sang Souchong. Pu'er. No, it's pu'er. I think it's pu'er. Oh, bloody hell, what's this one? Genmaicha. Oh, bloody hell, man. Oolong tea. Oolong. I like that one. That's a nice one. Fucking tea names. Oh, I'm out.